This video was made possible thanks to the support from my patrons. Pledge today and you can be involved in what videos get made next, and also get early access to them. Link in the description. Going into The Giggle, it was safe to assume that fans were getting an epic finale to the 360th anniversary specials, the final chapter of the 14th Doctor and Donna Noble, and setting the stage for a new era of Doctor Who, with Ncuti Gatwa stepping into the role as Doctor number 15. However, when the credits rolled and we did indeed get a new Doctor, it became clear that The Giggle wasn't just hoping to act as a finale to the 60th anniversary, but indeed the past 60 years of Doctor Who in general, not wiping the slate clean, but putting a definitive full stop at the end of the book, and even then that full stop can be replaced with a comma if necessary. Sorry folks, metaphors are hard. With the Toymaker's inclusion acting as a bookend and a way to cleverly contextualise the past 60 years and past 14 incarnations of the Doctor, culminating at the top of the Unit Tower, the home away from home that the Doctor had built, and surrounded by redheads as he dies. Honestly, I think that's how most of us want to go. But I'm getting way ahead of myself here. Obviously there's so much to talk about with that final act, but there's also a full 40 minutes of TV to talk about before we get to that point. So let's front load the review with that, and then talk about what worked about that ending, and perhaps more importantly, what didn't. So let me back up. The Giggle picks up where Wild Blue Yonder left off, where the Doctor and Donna witness the carnage of an average day in Bristol, only to learn that everyone on Earth has got a case of the Bristol, and are quickly whisked away to unit headquarters in London, where Kate Lethbridge-Stewart, Shirley Ann Bingham, and even Melanie Bush are filming the pilot for their own potential spin-off. The world has been driven mad by a subliminal giggling noise hidden inside every single screen since the invention of the television in 1925, thanks to the puppet Stooky Bill, a toy sold by the Toymaker, who had managed to escape his purgatory from nearly 60 years ago to wreak havoc on humanity. It's up to the Doctor and Donna to play the Toymaker's game to save the world, but as is the case with almost every game, there has to be a winner and a loser, with the Doctor's very life on the line. The first two acts of The Giggle are really strong, and really cleverly uses Doctor Who's ability to treat time and space as a playground, with most of this story taking place in the modern day, but the inciting incident happened in Soho 1925, with the invention of the television, and the Toymaker putting his thumb on the scales of history. And the Doctor and Donna are able to go back in time to learn more. It's just a really effective way of turning The Giggle into an almost pseudo-historical, and oddly enough, it might have served as a more fitting centenary special for the BBC in 2022 than the last round of specials, at least when it comes to the subject matter. The inspiration for this Stooky Bill storyline came when Russell T Davies was working on his miniseries Nolly, which starred Helena Bonham Carter as Noelle Gordon, the first woman ever filmed on colour television. And Russell T Davies' research led him to Stooky Bill, this creepy puppet that was the focus of the first broadcast image due to the colour contrasts on the puppet's face giving a clearer picture, and also the lights were far too hot for a human to safely stand under. And no, while Stooky Bill did not actually catch fire in 1925, his hair did get singed and his face cracked under the heat. Stooky Bill still actually exists and is held at the Science and Media Museum in Bradford, but yeah, you look at this thing and you think, yeah, that's a Doctor Who monster. Now, this story does take one big liberty with the inventor of the television, John Logie Baird, played here by John McKay, who also played the same role in Russell T Davies' Nolly, but Logie Baird was notoriously secretive with his work. He was really paranoid that people would steal his inventions, and as a result, he would not hire assistants, meaning that the inclusion of Charles, played by Charlie DeMilo, doesn't make a lot of sense. But of course, you do need someone to buy the doll and someone to be a victim of the Toymaker later on in the story, and you can't really kill off John Logie Baird. But it also gives someone for the Toymaker to be racist towards.
I really must apologize for the rain.
You must be used to sunnier climes.
I was born in Cheltenham.
I'm assuming this is an attempt to stay true to the Toymaker's racist origins in the 1960s, arguably unintentional, from the use of the term celestial and him dressed up in Eastern clothing despite being depicted as white. In this context, with the toy maker putting on a thick German accent along with an American and British accent over the course of the story, it seems that the toy maker, played here by Neil Patrick Harris, sees humanity as just another game where he can play dress up or pretend. His German accent is so ridiculous, he's just clearly having fun with it.
Guten Tag, kommen into the warm. It is raining, is it not? All of the water, all splishy splashy.
What the hell is geraining? Like seriously, the toy maker's not even trying to be convincing.
We have the teddy bears and the Harvey-Horsen. Who does not want a Harvey-Horse and to go clippity-clop down the Strasse, yeah?
And the idea that he runs a toy shop in the 1920s and was behind the Stooky Bill puppet, allowing him to become ingrained in every TV screen, is a great idea, with most of the world having access to some form of a screen in 2023, further tied in thematically with the toy maker acting as a bookend for the Doctor's adventures. The first incarnation encountered him on screen nearly 60 years ago, and now the 14th Doctor meets him again. From the birth of television and Doctor Who to now, it works as a way to bring the Doctor full circle for the occasion. I especially love the colorized footage from the Celestial Toymaker being edited into their encounter here.
The Toymaker. We meet again, Doctor.
And Neil Patrick Harris is genuinely great in this role, filling in the shoes of the late great Michael Gough, who was a similarly prestigious guest star in the 1960s, and here we have the all-singing, all-dancing star of stage and screen able to give this villain a very theatrical presence, an effortless confidence in his scenes with the 14th Doctor as he shuffles the cards. Sure, there's probably times where it's a double, operating the puppets or doing the card tricks, but I can believe that Neil Patrick Harris can do this, and he plays villains so well. After all, he is the best modern Batman villain. The piercing, playful gaze he gives the Doctor as he looks through the toy shop window is legit creepy as well. Such a strong, effective performance. Though, why on earth would you get actual music theatre star Neil Patrick Harris and have him lip sync to a Spice Girls song? Get him to actually sing it. Why not? Anyway, while I don't really buy the Doctor's reasoning for why the Toymaker has been set free,
I cast that sword at the edge of the universe. I played a game and let him in.
Wait, that was considered a game? I mean, no? Why couldn't it just have been a fragile universe after the events of the Flux? I don't know. But you do buy this guy as an existential force of nature as opposed to a tangible being, someone who can shape matter with a touch, who can create and walk through doors to hop around reality, and while those who have played his games in the past might have cheated, he himself follows the rules of the game. I love this moment where the Doctor tries and fails to explain what the Toymaker is to Shirley Ann Bingham. Like, this doesn't even begin to make sense or add up.
But how does he do it?
If I told you he manipulates atoms with the power of thought, would you believe it?
Is that what he does?
No.
Everything is put into perspective with this line near the end, however.
You know full well this is merely a face concealing a vastness that will never cease, because your good and your bad are nothing to me. All that exists is to win or to lose.
And with that in mind, it makes sense as to why he's done what he's done in The Giggle, since almost everyone has access to a screen or access to communication with social media, which is essentially a way to gamify engagement and human interaction. So social activity can be turned into a way to beat someone. Quote tweets on social media are primarily used to dunk on others. View counts, follower counts, or subscriber counts can be used to compete with others. In the modern era, communication through screens is now competitive, so the Toymaker is embracing that modern dynamic.
I made every opinion supreme. That's the game of the 21st century. They shout, and they type, and they cancel. So I fixed it. Now everybody wins.
And everyone loses.
The never-ending game.
Now, putting aside the cynical use of the term cancel, which seems a bit rich coming from Russell T Davies considering that he has yet to publicly comment on the cancellation of 2 actors who are accused of abusive behaviour under his watch, This does feel like the writer of Years and Years, where modern social dynamics serve to entrench opinions, where you can believe the most out-there conspiracies or engage in the most aberrant behaviour, but due to the spread of the internet, you can find a community that will enable or indulge you. It does not matter if you are objectively wrong, if you can find a community where people will say that you're right, where you can indulge that gut instinct. This episode is drawing obvious parallels to reactionary fake news outlets during its brief montage of how the Giggle is influencing humanity. We get the long-awaited return of Trinity Wells, who we've seen throughout the Russell T Davies era, played by Lachelle Carl, and she's an Alex Jones ripoff. How the mighty have fallen. There's the Prime Minister expressing open contempt for humanity, so same as usual, and Kate Stewart, who removes her arm bracelet, the Z-Dex, which represses these impulses and keeps the wearer calm and rational. And, it's worn on the left arm. The left arm.
I think it's a political statement.
Nah, I'm kidding, that's a stretch. But we get to see Kate Stewart, with Gemma Redgrave reprising her role, and side note, how great is it to see that Kate Stewart started her run in Doctor Who around the time of the 50th anniversary, and here she is in the 60th, great stuff there. But anyway, she takes off her Z-Dex, and, for lack of a better term, she becomes a Tory. It's obviously a great performance, but damn, her shock when she reckons with what she said to Shirley, who is a wheelchair user but can stand for short periods without it, and claiming the Doctor cannot be trusted because he's an alien face changer. Damn, it's rough. And Gemma Redgrave utterly sells the instant regret. Also, we know how much Russell T Davies loves television as a medium, the democratizing medium of the 20th century, which gave people a level playing field when it comes to information, at least before the internet came along, but Russell is also aware of its potential to be abused and stoke up hate and channel misinformation. The idea of a subliminal message hiding within the screens themselves driving humanity mad is a great idea and a great concept. But the fact that this doesn't really get a resolution in the third act is a pretty big recurring problem with the Giggle, because, well, Russell T Davies doesn't really have to wrap up the story, or the thematic through line, as the Giggle gets hijacked by the bi-generation at the end and the setting up of a new Doctor. But more on that later. Let's talk about the Doctor here though, because the signs that the Giggle isn't really working starts about 20 minutes in, when the Doctor and Donna go to 1920s Soho to find Stucky Bill.
I saw you, Doctor. I got a glimpse inside your mind. And it's like you're staggering. You are staggering along. Maybe that's why your old face came back. You're wearing yourself out.
Now, David Tennant is obviously older than he was in 2009. That's a shocking assessment. I know that you come to my YouTube channel for this high-end analysis, but he doesn't feel or act tired at all. He is still energized, he's still high energy, and aside from the emotional fallout of the events of the Flux outlined in the last episode, there's been nothing in these three specials to justify this from Donna, and here we hit some major roadblocks with the Giggle, where, if it wants to tell this type of story for the Doctor, it was kind of doomed from the start. It's way too short. For this hour-long block of TV, it needs to establish the Toymaker, Stucky Bill, play some of the Toymaker's games, give Donna some creepy puppet action, bi-generate, defeat the Toymaker, and then wrap up the 14th Doctor while setting up the 15th Doctor. In 1 hour of TV, it's just too much, so the A-plot with the Toymaker just doesn't really have an ending, and the character arcs of the main heroes just feel so underserved. I do not believe that the 14th Doctor is staggering and running on fumes. I really don't. Maybe if he played multiple games with the Toymaker, and as the story progresses he is deteriorating, but Donna has this chat with him before they even know the Toymaker is involved. And even at the end of the episode where Donna says that this face came back so the Doctor could come home, I don't buy it. The actors are selling it as best they can, but the groundwork has just not been laid. And the Doctor never says it himself. That's the worst part. Now obviously the idea is that friends can vocalize it and make him admit it to himself, but the way the episode presents the faltering state of the 14th Doctor, it almost seems like he's forced and coerced into retirement. Like this is not an organic or willing end to the Doctor's story, or even this phase of his life. And even then, it's undercut with him still having a TARDIS and going off on adventures with Rose Noble. Like, this isn't justified on any level.
Funny thing is, I fought all those battles for all those years. And now I know what for. This. I've never been so happy in my life.
I'm sorry, Doctor, but I don't believe you. If the idea of this ending is that you're going to do Time Lord rehab and get over everything from the past billion years, from Mavic Chen, Adric, the Time War, and the Flux, you're gonna need more than questionable meals at the Noble household. Like, what rehab are you going to do? We kind of need specifics here. Because this isn't just an ending to this trilogy, it's meant to be an ending to the past 60 years of Doctor Who, and it's also meant to lead into the 15th Doctor's newfound resolve and freedom. So what are you doing that turns you into that Doctor who is fine now? It can't just be stopping in place for a while, because the Doctor did that on Darillium with River Song for decades. He settled at St. Luke's University. He lived in the town of Christmas for centuries, although obviously that one was under a bit of duress. But there's countless examples of the Doctor stopping, so this one just seems like the latest in a long line, and it undercuts the premise. So this face came back to come home, according to Donna, putting aside why his clothes also changed so as to not open that can of worms. But what did Donna have to do with this then? Because in The Giggle, Donna has nothing to do apart from beat up some dolls, do some typing, which leads nowhere, and somehow figure out that the Toymaker's signal are musical notes.
If you look at these 7 peaks, like this, maybe it's music.
Damn, if this is meant to be a callback to 1960s Doctor Who, Donna is definitely channeling Barbara here.
We had time taken away from us, and now it's been given back to us because it's running out.
So, logically, if she weighs the same as a duck, she's made of wood. And therefore, a witch! A witch!
That sequence where the Toymaker puts on the puppet show for the Doctor, yeah, it's a great scene where the Toymaker is putting the Doctor on blast with the fate of his recent companions, except for those from the 13th Doctor's era, which, honestly, that feels a bit mean. But yeah, Donna has basically zero reaction to this. There's no follow-up from Donna when she learns the fate of those who came after her. Damn, she should have had a bigger reaction at the end to learning that her daughter has been travelling with the Doctor behind her back. No joke, this is Donna's only input in the text during the puppet show scene.
The poor Doctor, the Flux, was killing everything.
Is all of this true?
That's it. Once again, we cannot deal with the fallout or the character work from any of this because we've got to resolve the A-plot. Except not really, because there's a bi-generation happening in the third act. Of course we can't pay off the character dynamics of the relationships here. We've got a new era to set up.
Oh, well, that's all right then!
Yes, the scene where Stucky Bill's widow and the children come out to scare Donna, that is legit horrifying, but it belongs in a better episode than this, or at least it belongs in an episode willing to dedicate and prioritize it. Russell T Davies did something pretty big and controversial by rewriting the ending to Donna Noble's story in The Star Beast. Obviously, there's nothing wrong in concept with changing it to give Donna a happy ending, but was that really all that he wanted to do? Catherine Tate has been incredible in these 3 episodes, seriously, a great performance, but Donna has had so little to actually do, it's kind of astounding. Like, you did not need to bring her back and change the ending of her story logistically. It affects almost nothing on a plot level aside from being the fix to the Star Beast, and even then, it was just so that she could press a couple of buttons really fast for a minute. What a criminal waste of time for the character, and in my opinion, it did not justify rewriting that bittersweet and heart-wrenching ending to Journey's End. At least as it currently stands, she might come back in future. That family at the end of the episode could have been with any past companion. And to hit home this point, Mel even randomly joins in at the end. What does Mel have to do with the nobles? Do you think that Yasmin Khan is going to find out that she's pining for the lost love of her life in Sheffield, unaware that the Doctor is having picnics with the Noble family a 3-hour drive away? Jesus. Oh god, what about other companions? What's going to happen when Martha Jones learns of the parked Doctor in Chiswick? You know what the best frame of reference for the giggle is? Imagine The End of Time, the epic 10th Doctor regeneration story which revives the Master, brings back Wilf and Donna, and the Doctor has to stop the Master who's establishing a Master race on Earth, and the Time Lords come back and the Doctor stops them only to give his life to save Wilf and then go on a farewell tour. Imagine that story in 1 hour. That's what's happened with the giggle. Imagine a 60-minute version of The End of Time, a story where, yes, it's a total mess and is full of some really questionable creative decisions, but because it's a two-parter and told over nearly 2.5 hours, it has these really great scenes and moments that power you through it. An hour-long version of The End of Time wouldn't have these slow scenes with Wilf. It wouldn't allow the mood to set during these tense encounters. It would lose so much texture and character. That's what the giggle is missing. Imagine an hour-long episode where the cliffhanger ending is the 14th Doctor losing the first game in Soho, and then part 2 deals with the Toymaker in 2023 and wraps up the story and does the bi-generation. With just 60 minutes to play with, the giggle was doomed from the start. This was a game Russell T Davies was never going to win. Once the Toymaker is defeated, we never get any fallout from what the Toymaker did. No insight into whether or not humanity learned anything. No emotional coda or summation or footage from the ground level after the 20-minute mark. Without that ending, scenes and moments like this...
But it's not only the giggle. Don't go thinking you've got an excuse. The human race might be clever and bright and brilliant. It's also savage and venal and relentless. All the anger out there on the street, the lies, the righteousness, that's human, that's you, that's who you are. Using your intelligence to be stupid, poisoning the world, and hating each other. You've never needed any help with that.
I'm aware of how this sounds. It does sound like lecturing. Without a follow-through, without an actual payoff or third act, this is just Russell T Davies venting through an audience insert character and not imparting any wisdom or suggestions. I know that this word has been used incorrectly to describe so much of modern media from people with no media literacy, but folks, this is unironically what lecturing looks like. It's a lot like Chris Chibnall with Arachnids in the UK, introducing a Trump allegory into an episode just so that they could have a Trump allegory in the episode. With so little breathing room in the giggle, we don't even get a good introduction for the new unit dynamic. Mel just appears out of nowhere and does nothing except hold a box for most of the episode and sing an arpeggio. Just remove Mel and nothing from this episode changes. Oh, and we have the Vlinks.
Hello, the Vlinks. I'm the Doctor, so why is it called the Zedex?
Good name.
This guy is clearly going to be the supercomputer stand-in for a potential spin-off, kind of like Mr. Smith in the Sarah Jane Adventures, but he's just so out of place and is given zero clarification despite everyone else acting like he's just part of the furniture. It's jarring, and also the fact that he looks embedded in Unit HQ, is this a consensual arrangement? Is the Vlinks allowed to leave anytime he likes? It feels so out of character for the Doctor to not ask these questions. It feels like when Rick and Morty made a joke about pre-established side characters that the audience don't know, but everyone else acts like they've always been here with Mr. Poopy Butthole. But here, Doctor Who is unironically doing that bit, but playing it straight. 90% chance the Vlinks goes rogue in the first series of a Unit spin-off, by the way. Anyway, while the Unit stuff in the first act is so fast-paced and the actors are selling it and making the expositional equivalent of an assault on the senses come across as credible, it does ultimately start faltering towards the end of the breadcrumb trail. Seriously, go and watch that Unit scene again and ask yourself not only how Donna figured out the peaks in the signal were musical notes, but also, most importantly, How did Shirley trace those musical notes back to Stooky Bill?
It's so familiar. It's like it's been buried in my head for years. Carl, what is it?
I found the exact same notes.
In universe, this is a massive leap that is given no explanation. On repeat viewings, this breaks the scene. And I'm sorry, I need to go back to Mel again. Once again, what is she doing here? She has nothing to do. Come on, why waste Bonnie Langford's time and considerable talents? It also makes characters like Mel and Donna feel less unique because they're just added to the pile of companions who retired from time and space and then joined UNIT. A good idea in theory, but it's happening so regularly that UNIT is less an extraterrestrial specialist organization and now is becoming a retirement home for companions. Martha, Mel, Donna, Joe, and more. It just seems trite at this point, and it kind of robs these characters of their individuality.
I used to be like you. I was one of his companions.
I wasn't the first redhead.
That was me.
Mel, I'm sorry, but you were not the first redhead. I will not stand for this Turlough erasure, not on Doctor Who's 60th birthday. And yeah, Mel gets that nice scene with the Doctor establishing how she got back to Earth, but did that need to be here? Slap bang in the first act of The Giggle? If you removed her from the story, maybe you could have spent more time giving the Doctor and Donna more interesting things to do with the Toymaker, instead of just running up and down these corridors and through doors. Though the Toymaker being a huge puppeteer, looming over the Doctor is a terrific image, but there's so little actually going on here that it's left almost entirely to David Tennant to sell how scared he is of the Toymaker, and how high the stakes are this time, and I really don't think that's enough here. The Doctor, particularly during the Stephen Moffat era, was all about being an omnipresent, powerful demigod who could turn armies around at the mention of his name and his reputation. So to have the Doctor actually afraid and self-flagellating beneath the Toymaker is novel to see, but I think it needed more time to settle and showcase the change in the traditional Doctor and villain dynamic. And I understand that everyone is raving about the spice up your life scene, and yeah, it's fun, but it feels a bit been there, done that. Like I said, I think Neil Patrick Harris should be singing it rather than lip-syncing, but he's just copying the master, who did this twice. Rasputin was way more fun with this, though that image of the screaming UNIT soldier's face in the ball that's really terrifying. If the Toymaker is meant to be something more terrifying and powerful than the Doctor has gone up against before, then why have him copy the Master's material, but worse? But the Master is here though. He played against the Toymaker and is hidden in his gold tooth now. But the tooth gets picked up by what appears to be a female hand. Just like in 2007 with The Last of the Time Lords, a David Tennant incarnation of the Doctor getting an ordinary life with a companion, that is so 2008. The Doctor regenerating and splitting off while one gets to have adventures and the other stays at home. Once again, Russell T Davies has done this before. Heck, the Earthbound Doctor keeping a TARDIS was a deleted scene from Journey's End. One of these is a coincidence or a homage. All of these together, in the third act no less, is stagnation. There was so much marketing talk and hype speak after the broadcast of The Giggle about how this was the first ever bi-generation, how something like this has never been done before and it's so exciting. But it seems like Russell T Davies and the folks over at Bad Wolf were so preoccupied with whether or not they could do a bi-generation that they didn't stop to think if they should. Okay, so a lot of this is a personal subjective argument, but hear me out here. There's something incredibly elegant and dignified about the concept of regeneration. Not just a way to keep Doctor Who as a show fresh and easy to renew and reinvent, but in regards to the actors passing the torch. One actor leaves and another comes in. Obviously, this can't always happen, like with Doctors 6 through 9, but the concept in principle allows one actor to say goodbye and then another is brought in. But with a bi-generation, it means that the goodbye and the introduction needs to happen concurrently, and as a result, I think it gives the audience two half measures. Firstly, thank God this bi-generation happened with David Tennant rather than Jodie Whittaker, not just because of the clothes situation, but because it really would have done Jodie Whittaker a massive disservice for her departure to be watered down with her successor. With David Tennant, who already got a goodbye 15 years ago, this does not feel as bad. But with Russell T Davies seeming to want to wrap up the past 60 years of Doctor Who through the 14th Doctor, we have to get that across and pay that off whilst the next Doctor, who the audience want to meet and get to know, is just standing off camera, wearing no trousers and waiting for his time to shine. Not only does it take screen time away from 14 to wrap up his story and by proxy the past 60 years of TV, but it means we don't get an actual introduction to 15, to Ncuti Gatwa. He's denied the ritual of most of his predecessors and he can't shine as brightly because he's sharing the stage. Considering how obsessed and conscious of optics Russell T Davies normally appears to be, I don't see how he thought that casting the first openly queer actor and actor of colour as a numbered incarnation of the Doctor, and have him act as an understudy in the third act of his first episode, I can't imagine a world where Russell T Davies thought that that was okay. Also, the idea of bi-generation is something that needs a bit more explaining to your average audience member compared to a normal regeneration. Here is Ncuti Gatwa on the Graham Norton show, shortly after the broadcast of The Giggle, explaining what's happening.
So, I'm confused. Are you the 15th Doctor?
I am, yes, 15th Doctor. That has popped out of 14th Doctor's shoulder.
Yeah.
It's bi-generation, so it's the first time that bi-generation has ever happened. It's not a regeneration, it's a bi-generation. It's a new thing that Russell has brought in, whereby Time Lords can split into two, as you see.
But does David Tennant kind of hang around, or has he gone now?
David 14 is like now in his healing era. It's what I call it. He's off to have some therapy and chill out from a lifetime of saving the universe.
Okay, so the bi-generation. So why did you end up in your pants?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Look at this. This is the current Doctor, the brand new Doctor for what's meant to be a brand new era of the show, having to explain that he actually is the Doctor in front of millions of viewers. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Ncuti Gatwa has been the Doctor for around 15 minutes, and he already deserves so much better. If the 14th Doctor and Donna are just parked somewhere in modern London with a working TARDIS, it's just going to be a massive elephant in the room from now on. There's a reason the Meta-Crisis Doctor was exiled to a parallel world with Rose, so they won't be bumping into each other. Because the scenes with Ncuti Gatwa where he's on screen, he's amazing. Such charm, such charisma, such energy. That smile, that damn smile. He swaggers about the new TARDIS console as if it was made for him. But it's hard for him to leave his mark as this character if he's having to pick up the pieces of his predecessor, pieces that I have to remind you that were only set up about 30 minutes ago. The 15th Doctor is trying to support the 14th Doctor through an arc that barely even got started. It's further undercut when you remember that an older incarnation of the Doctor, helping a damaged, younger version through trauma and self-acceptance, was the premise of the previous anniversary special, and was done so much better there, because it was the plot of the actual episode. But no, in The Giggle we have to set up a unit spin-off, introduce and defeat the Toymaker, and so much more. Something has to give, and unfortunately, it's what matters most in a story like this. The A-plot, and the arcs of the characters. And can we please talk about the clothing for the bi-generation? Come on, why is the 15th Doctor's first scene him running around with no trousers on? Why can't they just wear the same clothes? And the fact that even when they meet again in the TARDIS, the 15th Doctor still has not put more clothes on, combined with the strange dialogue from Mel and Donna when they first meet him.
What do you think?
I think you're beautiful.
Still beautiful.
Yeah. Do you come in a range of colours?
Yes.
It feels like Ncuti is really being objectified here. Yes, he's a very attractive man, but if the genders were reversed, everyone would rightly be pointing out just how inappropriate this is, regardless of the gender or the sexuality of the writer and the actor. The idea of two Doctors having to beat the Toymaker, that's cool. I just don't think it should be how one Doctor leaves and another is introduced. And in the end, it comes down to a game of catch. Sure, there's a boldness to how simple an idea that is for the final action scene, but there's so few wide shots that the scene doesn't really feel credible. Also, I thought the 14th Doctor was meant to be exhausted and staggering along, but here's David Tennant in his 50s doing rolls and jumps. But in the end, while I think the actors are terrific, and the image of the 15th Doctor embracing and comforting his predecessor is quietly beautiful, I have to be honest, I don't feel anything while watching The Giggle. Even in regeneration stories that I don't like, I'm often bawling my eyes out at the regeneration scenes, or appreciating having a Doctor's whole lifetime recontextualized with their final story. But in The Giggle, there's none of that here, because this isn't actually goodbye, and neither is it a hello. It's a, alright, you're just gonna be here, ignoring all the world-ending stories for the next billion years or whatever, and you're here, waiting for your predecessor's character arc to end, off-screen, if that ever happens, while wearing no trousers. It's Russell T Davies trying to sell the idea of bi-generation by the sheer virtue of it being a new idea in and of itself, as opposed to something that does the characters or the show justice. And then the actors and the creative team have to try and fail to sell it to the public. Now imagine if Series 4, back in 2008, was just 3 episodes long. Partners in Crime, Midnight, and Journey's End. That's your lot. Huge arc, huge character revelations and more, just truncated until they lose all emotional meaning or staying power. That's what these 3 specials are. The fact that apparently they've been building to all of this, but none of the groundwork was established until the beginning of Act 2 of the 3rd special, feels like creative malpractice, culminating in the brand new Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa, playing second fiddle in his first story to brand management. We can't focus on him or give him his own introduction or time to establish himself here, because we need to set up more Whoniverse stuff, from UNIT, Mel, and parking the 14th Doctor and Donna. The brand of Doctor Who superseded the introduction of the 15th Doctor, and that's so depressing I don't even have words for it. Especially when you consider that a whole new generation of Doctor Who fans in waiting could meet the 15th Doctor for the first time at Christmas or in Series 14 and think, where did he come from? And then they're referred back to The Giggle, and then they watch it and they're treated to about half a dozen half-baked plot threads and what appears to be acting as a spiritual finale to the past 60 years and nearly 900 episodes of TV. It's... what's the opposite of elegant? Okay, Google says gauche, so I'll stick with that. The Giggle is gauche. It's all destination and no journey. And you know what? While I'm not a Russell T Davies completionist, I would say I've watched about 90% of his television work. The Giggle feels so unlike him. Obviously, in the callbacks and the repetition of his Doctor Who works, it feels very like him. But a lot of this stuff just seems copied and pasted. But no, I'm talking about his sense of conviction. The Giggle is the first time I've watched a Russell T Davies script that did not feel confident or self-assured. Oh, it starts out that way, with the Toymaker and Stooky Bill, but then as it drags on, you realise that it's all just window dressing. Mel, the unit gang, the teasers for the future that are so vague and nondescript that you really could not pay me to spend time speculating on what they could mean.
There's only one player I didn't dare face. The one who waits.
Who's that?
I saw it. Hiding. And I ran.
What do you mean?
That's someone else's game.
My legions are coming.
Wow, that's really boring.
And the constant callbacks and references to the show's past, and yeah, I know it's an anniversary special, but I feel like they wouldn't have been included if the special was able to stand on its own. Russell T Davies has thrown in elements of the show's past from day one of his time on the show, but here, the callbacks seem so without purpose, outside of the overtness of the Doctor has had a long history and now needs to go to rehab.
I'm fine. I'm fine because you fix yourself. We're Time Lords, we're doing rehab out of order.
But then, without any sort of specificity as to what the rehab entails, and already direct evidence that he's just going back to business as usual...
Don't go sneaking off to Mars.
Again?
What's that mean?
Oh, no, it was just once. Oh, you were in trouble.
He took me to New York last week.
Yeah.
The Gilded Age, it was amazing. Well...
not only shoots a hole right through the heart of the story, but it serves to dispel the idea that Ncuti Gatwa is the Doctor. He is not the definite article here, and that's even ignoring the fact that we've done all of this before. Also, side note, if the Star Beast was trying to capture the sense of material loss and the dwindling safety and culture of the UK over the past 15 years as a result of austerity, Part of me respects the idea of the 14th Doctor perhaps meant to represent the audience over that time. Crisis after crisis after crisis, an economic crash, successive and worsening conservative governments, Brexit, COVID, another economic crash, and we're all just tired and materially worse as a result. For God's sake, children in the UK are literally growing up smaller than those in European countries because of malnutrition. So, if the Doctor, going through all of these traumatic events like the Time War, Trenzalore, the Flux, and now, is this meant to represent the emotional well-being of the UK? I'm on board with that reading, so what are we meant to do about it? Because not everyone can just have garden parties and go to Mars every so often. Donna is able to get out of poverty by being offered a £60,000 a year cushy city job and manages to double that salary with no effort.
How much per year?
60,000.
120 plus 5 weeks holiday.
Done.
Yeah, that's a funny bit, but it feels like an attempt at social commentary, but it doesn't actually conclude or say anything. It's a parallel with the real world that never gets a payoff. Now, I'm obviously not expecting Russell T Davies to fix late-stage capitalism or to end austerity, you know, obviously, but considering how much of a crowd-pleasing, populist writer Russell T Davies normally is, this approach feels almost comically out of touch. Going back to the last regeneration story, The Power of the Doctor, while the plot is a mess, I actually felt invested in what was happening, and while you can argue whether or not the callbacks and the returning characters were handled faithfully or effectively, I can at least see the purpose and what writer Chris Chibnall might have been trying to say with the companion support group and giving the audience a metatextual statement about the role of the Doctor's companion, and by proxy the audience, during a regeneration. But in The Giggle, oh look, Mel's here to pull the Doctor apart and hold a box. Yeah, I'm sure kids are going to be acting that role out in the playground. I want to emphasise that The Giggle starts really, really strong. I think the Toymaker is great and thematically bookending 60 years of Doctor Who with him and the original story to now is really effective. It all looks great, there's so much exposition and dialogue, but director Chanya Button really gives us such dynamic frames and memorable tableaus, and is able to get terrific performances out from all of the cast. It's kind of mad how she's able to hop from genre to genre, set piece to set piece, but still makes it feel cohesive. She has done a superb job here, and I hope we can see her return behind the cameras in the near future. There's some really strong musical moments from Murray Gold, like the new Unit theme, our introduction to the 15th Doctor's theme, which is such a fun, playful, but thunderous banger. I think the cast are great and are doing their best with the material, but with so much needing to get accomplished in just 60 minutes, the story and the emotions just collapse. And in the end, I feel nothing while watching it. Back in 2009, we watched David Tennant regenerate and tearfully proclaim that he didn't want to go. In 2023, we can see that he still doesn't have to go. Some may see something beautiful there, but me, I see it as a cynical branding exercise, and I think all involved deserved better than that. As much as I loved Wild Blue Yonder, easily the best of the 3 anniversary specials, and it isn't even close, if given the option to have the 3 specials as they are now, or replace Wild Blue Yonder with a 2-part version of The Giggle, I would honestly prefer the latter option. You can at least push the story of Wild Blue Yonder to a 15th Doctor season. This really needed more time to breathe. Imagine a longer version of the story where Donna's lovely pep talk to the Doctor about how each game is a fresh new start could be contrasted with a dive into her reaction of the Toymaker's puppet show, of the companions who came after her. Imagine the far-out concepts or fun and twisted games the Doctor and the Toymaker could have played instead of just cutting a pack of cards. Or better yet, imagine the end of time without the scenes of the Doctor and Wilf in the diner, without the scenes of them looking over the Earth, because that's what The Giggle feels like. Great ideas that ultimately don't really get out of the starting gate because of a need to simultaneously give a Doctor a fresh start for a new era of the show, but also trying to make the culmination of the Doctor's story arc as complicated and as awkward and as abrupt as possible with the bi-generation that ends up leaving both David Tennant and Ncuti Gatwa floundering as actors with characters that just aren't landing. As a finale, it's rushed and lacking in all of the areas that counts. As a standalone story, it literally does not have a third act. And as a start to a new era, it's meandering, and the opposite of an accessible jumping on point. Honestly, while it undeniably has strong moments, great performances, and is a well-produced hour of television, it is ultimately a failure at almost everything it sets out to do. It actually makes me think a bit less of The Star Beast and Wild Blue Yonder, knowing that this is what the trilogy was building to. And while I cannot say that previous epic Russell T Davies penned finales have managed to stick the landing completely, they at least have me engaged and emotionally invested. But The Giggle absolutely did not, and I think everyone involved here is better than the material. So, it's over. Happy 60th birthday to Doctor Who, the end of the 14th Doctor, kind of, and we now have the start of a new era. So join me next time for the first Doctor Who Christmas special in several years. Move over New Year's Day, as we've got a musical festive caper with a new Doctor, a new companion, and goblins in The Church on Ruby Road. I'll see you next time. Hey folks, thank you so much for watching my review of Doctor Who The Giggle, and that's the end of the 60th anniversary specials, but not the end of the reviews for 2023 episodes, because we have the Christmas special, The Church on Ruby Road. If you want to know my thoughts on that, if you want to know when my review comes out on that, be sure to subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out. Also, while you're there, hit that like button, leave any comment down below to appease the almighty YouTube algorithm. What did you folks think of The Giggle? Also, I'm here with my cat Winnie, who's decided to say hello while I record the credits. If you want to help to support the channel, you can do so by becoming a patron. Not only will you ensure that Winnie gets cat food, but you'll also get these reviews early. You can get access to a Mr. Titus Discord server. You can also get your name in the credits like these people, and I want to give a shout out to these particular patrons: Adam Grattan, Ben Langdon, Tuba City Blues, Daniel Davis, Darius, Darren Carver-Bausinger, Dean Jones, Dreamer Shell 18, Dylan Whitaker, Air Hoovian, Ginger Animator, Jay Black, Jack D. Evans, Joseph Adams, Lard Dragon Ezra, Leela, Maria Bergman, Marianne Mogensen, Mario Fanboy 15, Michael Serrano, Miranda Logan, Nick M, Palex, Pat Andrews, Randall Sprinkle, Raven Woods, Renegade Time Lord 97, Reese Lloyd, Ross A.T. Stewart, Ryan Duncan, Sam Montgomery, Samuel Whitaker, Sarah Parker Shemalt, The Evil Dalek, The Brit Sniper, The Raggedy Jedi, The Scarlet Watcher, Toby Loxton, Will, and Yavenu. Thank you so much to my patrons, thanks to you for watching, happy 2024, I'll see you folks next time.